it going.
All right, so this month we're talking about heart health and how to follow a heart healthy lifestyle. February is always American Heart Month, so it's a great time to focus on this. And the theme for this month is Our Hearts Are Healthier Together. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Hannah Padgett. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and this is our second class of this series. So like I said, each February, the National Heart Lung Institute celebrates American Heart Month by encouraging Americans to adopt a healthy lifestyle to support their heart. So as we've seen, especially during this pandemic with COVID-19, it's even more important to protect our heart. So this is a really great topic to cover. The research shows that we're more successful at meeting goals when we do have someone to meet those goals with, when we work together. So that's why this year's theme is working together to take care of our hearts. So it's really important for us to be a good example, not only for ourselves, but also for our family, our friends, our parents, our kids, I mean, really anyone. So I hope this presentation can inspire and motivate you to also take care of your heart and maybe motivate somebody else. So they had this really cute meme that I found. It's this doctor, and he goes, "Roses are red, violets are blue. Let's exercise daily and eat healthy too." That was pretty cute.
It's a good one.
I thought so too. So today we're going to talk about the keys to having a healthy heart. So the first one is obviously going to be having a healthy diet and being able to maintain that diet long term. The second one is going to be at a healthy weight, which is what we discussed in that first class. The third one is going to be controlling your cholesterol and your blood pressure levels. The fourth one is going to be physically active, exercise, move, that kind of thing. Then we're going to talk about, quitting tobacco if you do smoke, or if there's anybody else in your house, trying to help them quit as well. And then getting adequate sleep. Okay.
Quitting smoking and dieting don't go together.
They don't. So nutrition is obviously going to be the first one. So like we talked about before, it's really important to find a healthy eating pattern that you can be consistent with, because this is really going to be the key in fighting heart disease when you can continue doing it long term. So we really want to focus on foods that are going to be rich in fiber, vitamins, minerals, and other important nutrients that help control weight, cholesterol, and blood pressure. There's going to be two diets that we usually recommend when you do have some high blood pressure. It's going to be the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, and then also the Mediterranean diet. These two diets have really been proven in research to help lower blood pressure and improve heart health. So the first one, the DASH diet, really focuses on a diet full of whole foods. So fruits, vegetables, low-fat dairy products, and just really trying to limit saturated fat, total fat, and cholesterol by really watching what you eat when it comes to red meats, sweets, and just too much sugar in the diet. The Mediterranean diet is very, very similar, but it focuses on also including beans and legumes, a little bit more fish, and also nuts and seeds, and those non-tropical vegetable oils, which in particular is that olive oil. So again, both of these diets have been shown to really help lower blood pressure and LDL cholesterol. LDL is that bad cholesterol that we really want to keep under about 100. So both of these diets have been proven to help control those levels. And like I said, the DASH diet is focusing more on or allows more dairy products and meat, while the Mediterranean diet really wants you to include more of those healthier fats like the olive oil. So you can always do a combination of both as well. It's two great diets to consider. Another really important nutrient, and it's going to be high in both those diets, is going to be fiber. So when we look at this in the American diet, most of us are not meeting the fiber recommendations. And research is really showing that when you do meet fiber recommendations, you are less likely to have heart disease and diabetes overall. When you do eat a lot of fiber in the diet, it can really help control blood pressure and really can help filter out the cholesterol. So it's a really great thing to really try to focus on when you're eating a nutritious diet to prevent heart disease. So some good examples of high fiber foods, it's going to be whole grains. There's some really high fiber cereals, vegetables, of course. Carrots, celery, and tomatoes are awesome. And also oatmeal. Oatmeal is one thing that I always recommend. It's a great breakfast in the morning. Barley is another one. Beans, nuts, fruit with a skin on it. So the skin really has a lot of fiber in it. So whenever you do eat like an apple or a pear or something, I always recommend eating the skin if you can. So again, eating these foods is really going to help prevent that heart disease. So here's another meme I found. It says, eat your vegetables, you need the fiber. So what is the fiber recommendation? So we really want men to be eating about 30 to 38 grams of fiber a day, and women need a little bit less, about 21 to 25 grams of fiber a day. So what's one way we can know how much fiber is in something? If it has a food label, it's going to tell you how much fiber is in it. So whenever I recommend, like say you want to buy a cereal, I always recommend looking at that label and finding the cereal that's going to be highest in fiber. So it's a really good way of picking up the best option when it comes to foods that have a food label on it. So if a product claims that it's a good source of fiber, it means that it has about 10% of your daily value, which is about 2.5 grams. If the product says it's rich or high or an excellent source of, it usually means it's about 5 grams or more. So that'd be a really good option to choose. Like I said, those high fiber cereals is a great way to like sprinkle on some yogurt or just eating in general to get some extra fiber in. Berries is another really the highest fiber fruit that we have. So it's a great addition as well. And then also they make so many great breads and wraps and other things now that are super high in fiber. So again, look at that label and try to choose the one that's highest or higher in fiber at least. So I always say a good ballpark when it comes to fiber is 3 or more grams per serving. Okay. And if for some reason it's really hard for you to get enough fiber in a diet, I totally recommend a fiber supplement. They usually range from 3 to 5 grams of fiber per serving. They come in gummies. They're easy to consume. You can get them at Walgreens, CVS. You can order them off Amazon. This Philips brand that I have pictured here is a great one. So I would definitely recommend adding that supplement in if you do have a hard time reaching those goals of, again, 30, 38 grams for men and 21 to 25 grams a day for women. One more thing about fiber too. So if you are eating a diet pretty low in fiber and you want to start increasing the fiber, take it slow because a lot of fiber at once, if you're not used to it, can definitely cause some bloating, maybe some gas and some other GI issues. So start slowly so you can manage that a little bit better. And then it's also good to make sure you're getting enough fluids. Because if you don't drink enough fluids and you're increasing your fiber, you're going to get the opposite effect, and it's going to make you pretty constipated. So definitely make sure you're getting at least 8 cups of fluids, if not more, a day, especially if you're outside. I mean, women, they recommend about 11 cups of fluid, and men more like 13 cups of fluid a day. So really making sure that you're making it a priority as well with your fiber. Okay, and then I wanted to talk about some specific foods that I'm sure some of you have heard about for heart health. The first one's going to be chocolate, in particular dark chocolate. So they actually had this one study published in 2017 that found that combining raw almonds, dark chocolate, and cacao significantly reduced the number of low-density lipoprotein, or that LDL, which is that bad cholesterol, in people who are overweight and obese. And they found this mostly in chocolate that is over 70% cacao. So if you ever buy like a chocolate bar, it usually says the percentages on it. So I always recommend a 70% or over. Obviously, you still want to enjoy this in moderation. It's still high in calories and fats. We don't want to go, eat the whole chocolate bar, but a few squares is a great thing to kind of curve a sweet tooth, and it tastes good and it's good for you. So it is a great thing to have in the diet, obviously in moderation. The second one is
dark chocolate or just dark chocolate?
So dark.
You don't have to go over the alcohol if you don't want to. I've been sober for 5.5 years.
Well, we got the 2 people on virtual.
Oh, sorry. Can they hear me?
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Yeah, so dark chocolate. So Jody, look for 70% or higher when you buy a bar of dark chocolate and give that a try.
I prefer milk chocolate, but no.
But maybe give it is it's a little bit
I can't
it's
eat
a
a
little bit
lot.
different for sure. Might get a little bit
Okay.
getting used to, but maybe like one piece of milk, one piece of dark kind of thing. Starting out slow.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm diabetic, so I don't eat much.
Okay. Alcohol is another one. So federal guidelines of the American Heart Association recommend that if you do drink alcohol, obviously you want to do it in moderation. So for men, they recommend 1 to 2 drinks a day, and women just 1 drink a day. And that's based off a 12-ounce, 4 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of 80 proof spirits. The studies have found that when in moderation, alcohol may have some heart benefits, including raising your HDL cholesterol, which is that good cholesterol, and lowering risk of diabetes. However, excessive drinking is extremely dangerous. It can lead to liver damage, obesity, certain types of cancer, and stroke. So, again, moderation is super key when it comes to alcohol. And really trying to stay under those guidelines. And if you can't, really trying to just eliminate it if possible. So again, I had this really cute meme. It says, date night is you plus me plus a moderate amount of red wine and dark chocolate.
That's sex, I would think. It is date night.
All right. So in summary, you really want to, when it comes to nutrition, again, I like this motto of eating more and eating less, and not cutting out all food groups or eliminating a specific food, because that just leads to food anxiety and just feeling deprived, which can actually do the opposite and kind of make you throw out your healthy diet altogether. So really trying to eat more variety of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lower fat dairy, lean meats, fish, nuts and legumes, seeds, and then again, extra virgin olive oil is great. And then trying to just eat less of foods high in saturated fats, trans fats, sweets, processed snacks, sugar sweetened beverages. So that includes like Gatorade, Powerade, sodas, sweet tea, anything that has extra sugar in it. Obviously, yeah, trying to choose the zero options, the sugar-free options, and just trying to drink a good amount of water as well. Obviously, watching out for the salt shaker. It's really easy to add a lot of salt to the diet with that. And then just trying to stay away from the processed vegetable oils like soybean oil. Again, trying to choose a healthier oil like the extra virgin olive oil. For high heat cooking, a really great one is going to be an avocado oil, if that's something you'd like to try.
I should weigh 120. I do all this stuff. It's my medication.
All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the healthy weight. So again, this is what we touched on the first class. So again, the research just points to time and time again, people that follow a healthy, balanced diet over a continuous period of time are not only able to lose weight, but they can maintain that weight. And they also reduce their risk of developing chronic diseases such as heart disease, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. So again, really find a healthy way of eating that you can stick with, even if that includes some not so great foods. I mean, if I really focus on including good foods in your diet and being able to do that long term. So again, the strategies that they've shown for keeping a healthy weight is going to be, again, just eating long term, getting exercise in, activity in, eating a lower calorie diet. So just being mindful of how many calories you're taking in. Eating breakfast regularly has been shown to be important for maintaining a healthy weight. And then again, just making sure you know where your weight is at, and you can continue to monitor that in a healthy way. So again, healthy weight, losing weight should be looked at as a race. You really want to try to lose about 1 to 2 pounds a week. You don't need to really lose more than that. Again, I recommend skipping those quick fixes like the detox, the supplements, buying into these expensive programs that people are selling online all the time. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Again, look at what you're currently doing. If you can do a food log, if you can somehow calculate your current calories or your current intake, that can really set where you're at, show you where you're at, and then go from there. I'm a big believer in setting goals for yourself. Again, we did that in the first class. So set some goals that are achievable, and look at them weekly, and put them somewhere you can see them. Put them on your fridge, see where they're at, so you can remind yourself that these are the goals that you're working on. So example would be to drink 8 cups of water a day. That's been a huge one for me. I've been really trying to get that down. It's been hard, but that's a really great one to do. Having some sort of exercise or physical activity goal, or even some nutrition goals. So here's another meme. 1, lose weight by dieting and exercise, not wearing a wrap for an hour. So again, it just goes back to really trying to stay away from those quick fixes, and just taking it slow and making those changes over time that you can sustain. Okay, so we're going to talk about blood pressure. So sodium is a mineral that's essential for life. It's regulated by your kidneys, and it helps control your body's fluid balance. It's also important for your nerves and your muscles. But unfortunately, when you eat too much salt, it pulls water into your blood vessels, and it increases the total volume over time, which will increase your blood pressure. So when you have high blood pressure over time, it overstretches and injures those blood vessel walls, and also speeds up the buildup of plaque as well. And it also tires the heart out a lot because it forces it to work extra hard to pump blood through the body. It also causes a lot of increase in weight, extra water, which can lead to that bloating and weight gain. So this is why sometimes if you eat a really high salt dinner the night before and you wake up and you've gained 5 pounds overnight, it's not because you gained 5 actual pounds overnight. It's that sodium, and it increases your water weight. So high blood pressure is known as a silent killer because the symptoms of high blood pressure are not always obvious. And it's the #1 killer worldwide and the major risk factor for heart disease. It's projected that 90% of Americans are going to have high blood pressure throughout their lives. And even if you do not have high blood pressure, it's a good idea to watch that sodium because that can help blunt the rise in blood pressure that actually occurs with age. So naturally, when you age, your blood pressure is going to elevate. So being mindful of salt in your diet can be really beneficial. And when it comes to the numbers, the systolic, which is the upper number, and the diastolic, which is the number below, both numbers are pretty equally important. But most research has shown there's a greater risk of heart disease and stroke when you have a higher systolic number, which is that upper number. Over here to the right, I have a tab. I have the numbers that show us what blood pressure is. Numbers. The chart. That was the word I was looking for, the chart. Thank you. So for normal blood pressure, the top number is usually less than 120, and that bottom number is usually less than 80. Once it starts to get a little bit elevated, you're going to see that upper number jump up a little bit, but that bottom number might still be under 80. So it might jump up between 120 and 129. When you start getting into hypertension, which is another word for high blood pressure, stage 1 is going to be between 130 and 139 on that top level. Or if your bottom level is a little bit elevated as well, from 80 to 89. You get to stage 2, and it's 140 or higher, or 90 or higher. And then that third stage, which is pretty dangerous, is going to be higher than 180 and or higher than 130. So it's a good thing to know your levels because, again, you don't really always have symptoms when it comes to elevated blood pressure. So when it comes to blood pressure, reducing sodium, salt in the diet is really going to help your risk of having that high blood pressure. So recommend about 2,300 milligrams a day. You know, more than about 1,500 milligrams a day for most adults, especially adults that already have comorbidities like diabetes or heart disease. But unfortunately, we eat more like 3,400 milligrams a day, so it's more than double what most Americans should be eating. So I know these numbers, it's hard to understand what these numbers mean, but you can find all these numbers and the amount of sodium on the food label. So I always recommend checking that. And again, like with the fiber, choose the best option that's going to be the lowest in sodium. So again, the sodium's listed in milligrams. So again, trying to find the lowest one. And because we eat so much excess sodium, even cutting back by 1,000 milligrams is going to make a big difference. So anything you can do is going to help. So again, looking at the label, so you can see here on the right, the label is 460 milligrams of sodium per serving. And it says 20%, which is the percent daily value. So they say if it's more than 20%, it's usually considered high. So that can be a good thing to look at too when you're looking at labels. If you see like 25%, maybe try to find something a little bit lower. Another thing you really want to pay attention to when it comes to labels, also the serving size. So as you can see on this label, it has 4 servings in the container. So if you eat this whole container of whatever food this is, you need to times 460 by 4. So that's going to put you a little bit under 2,000, which is already over that recommendation for how much sodium. You can see how it's pretty easy to consume over your sodium recommendations. So the food labels do have some, they do have some wording that can help choose a lower sodium product. If you see sodium free on something, it's going to be less than 5 milligrams. So it's always going to be a good option. Very low sodium, again, 35 milligrams or less, another good option. Low sodium, 140 or less. Reduced is at least 25% less. So again, it's not great, but it's going to be better than something high. They also have light for sodium-related products, reduced by at least 50%. And light in sodium, if sodium is reduced by at least 50%. So those kind of get confusing.
Light sodium. I've seen a reduced sodium. I've never seen one that's just light.
Yeah, the last 3 there, or the last 2 specifically, I don't see very much of. But the low sodium is usually the biggest one you see on products, especially when it comes to something like tomato sauce. Obviously, you're going to see a low sodium option.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Or something like broth, like chicken broth or something like that. It's going to have a lower sodium option. So when you yes, canned vegetables, soups, a lot of canned and packaged products. I mean, they're all going to have a nutrition label on it. So it's a good idea, again, to turn it over and look at that sodium right away. And also looking at the fiber. So you can look at those 2 things can really help make a decision on which ones to get.
And a soup this big. 4 servings.
And looking at the serving size, the serving size drives me crazy because they're usually not an appropriate serving size. And we are working on changing the nutrition label. It's just taking a lot longer to make it more appropriate. So hopefully that's going to be coming in the next couple years. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so where is most of the sodium found in foods other than the things we just talked about, which is usually, canned foods, packaged foods, things like that. And like this says here, it's not the salt shaker that's the problem most of the time. It's the packaged, prepared in restaurants. Restaurants obviously want your food good, and by adding lots of salt to your food, it's going to taste good. So that is one place you really want to be careful when you're eating out. And you can always ask the waitress, hey, don't add extra salt to my food. They might not do it, but they might. So it might be helpful. So just so you know, when it comes to the salt shaker, a 4th teaspoon of salt is already 575 milligrams of sodium.
Wow.
If you use a full teaspoon of salt, it's already 2,300 milligrams of sodium.
Wow.
So keep that in mind when you're using that salt shaker. A lot of people salt their food while they're cooking and then again after they cook. I recommend waiting until after you cook because then you're not doing the double dipping. You're not doing it during and after. But obviously, if you can use something else to flavor your food, like herbs or other seasonings, garlic powder, onion powder, they have salt-free seasonings as well. Mrs. Dash is going to be a good one that has a lot of different flavors, things like that. It'd be good to get into those and trying some new stuff out to try to reduce that salt shaker use. But again, just be mindful that most of our excess sodium comes from that packaged, prepared, and restaurant foods. So here's some other tips for just trying to reduce salt in your diet. So obviously, like I just said, trying to use less of the salt shaker because that can add up very quickly. using more herbs or salt-free spices like that Mrs. Dash. Just so you know, Mr. Dash does have salt in it, so always look for the Mrs. Dash.
I didn't know there was a Mr. Dash.
Mr. Dash.
A married couple. In the salt, in the spice aisle.
Jim, this is potato.
Yep.
Mr. Dash has salt. Okay.
Yep, Mr. Dash has salt. You can always use onions, garlics, herbs. I love using like lemons and oranges. Citrus is awesome on vegetables and really anything. Vinegars are great. They're very, very low calorie and great on food. And again, if you are using salt, be very mindful of it. Obviously, choosing lower sodium options, which we talked about, looking at nutrition labels, looking for that low sodium label, things like that. And then again, if you can choose less than 20% daily value for those foods as well. Elizabeth mentioned canned foods as well. One thing you can do while also buying a low sodium option is also wash them. So wash your beans, wash your green beans. That can wash some of the salt off as well. Eat at home as often as you can. I mean, I know now with the pandemic, it's been a lot more at home, so that's good. Because restaurants just load the salt on the food. They want it to taste good. They're going to put tons of salt and tons of other stuff that has salt in it as well. Watch out for words that usually mean high sodium. So if you ever see like brined, barbecued, cured, smoked, broth, au jus, soy sauce, miso, teriyaki, any of those Asian sauces usually have tons of sodium. Just be mindful of that. And again, look for those lower sodium options and always look at the nutrition label. Potassium really fights sodium, so they kind of compete. So if you increase the amount of potassium in your diet, it's going to help lower the sodium that's in your body. So what's going to be the best source of that? Fruits and veggies. So really trying to eat fruits and vegetables. Obviously, there's a lot of other reasons to do so, but it can also help lower blood pressure. So some high potassium food. Avocados and tomatoes are actually higher in potassium than bananas. I always tell people that. So those are always good ones as well. Spinach, mushrooms, lima beans, peas, tomato juice, tomato sauce, oranges, cantaloupes, melons, grapefruit. I mean, there's tons of stuff that have high potassium. Again, fruits and veggies. Okay, so now we're going to talk about cholesterol. So it's another level besides blood pressure you want to just be mindful of and know where your numbers are at. So our bodies make and accumulate cholesterol. We make cholesterol regardless of what we eat and how much we exercise because it's needed in our bodies. It's important for things like hormone production, for testosterone and estrogen. So it really gets this bad rap, but it's actually pretty important for our bodies. Many foods in our current diet, unfortunately, cause an overproduction of this cholesterol, and that's where the problem comes in. And any calorie-containing food can turn into cholesterol, not just cholesterol from eating animal foods. So you typically hear that saturated fat is the big culprit for high cholesterol, but just excess calories in general can contribute to this over cholesterol production. If you're not getting other important nutrients from your diet, your cholesterol will continue to accumulate and your risk for heart disease will increase as well.
Why is that? Does that mean that your body holds on to cholesterol kind of as a life raft? If it's not getting its other nutrients, it feels like it needs to hold on to that to break down potentially?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Unfortunately. So when it comes, there are always going to be some specific foods. Eggs is going to be the biggest one. It's been highly debated over the last few years in research because we've been told over and over again, like, eggs are horrible. Don't eat eggs if you have high cholesterol. They're going to increase your cholesterol like crazy. And we do know that egg yolks have a high level of cholesterol, but that does not automatically mean it's going to become cholesterol in our bodies. So they did a huge umbrella review of the research when it comes to egg consumption and heart health. And it was found that in general populations, there were no significant effect of egg intake on overall cardiovascular disease risk, stroke, fatal heart disease, and the heart disease. And then they showed another meta-analysis, which is a big research paper on a bunch of randomized control trials, that people who ate 6 to 12 eggs per week following a healthy lifestyle, had no adverse effects on major heart disease risks. And these were with people with or at risk of type 2 diabetes. So the review found that a high heart disease risk populations, such as those with type 2 diabetes, can safely consume 1 to 2 eggs a day when they're following a healthy lifestyle. So eggs are great. They're nutritious. They're affordable. They have a high amount of protein, vitamin D, B12, selenium, choline. I mean, they really are a nutrient-dense food and can be included in your diet, even if you have heart disease or diabetes, when you're also following other healthy lifestyles.
What's the best way to, oh, you may talk about it here. Never mind. Go ahead. Sorry.
So obviously sometimes when you order eggs, especially in a restaurant, it comes with processed grains or lots of butter or salt or processed meats like bacon and sausage, which aren't going to be the best for our heart. So you just have to be mindful of how you're eating your eggs. And again, are you following a healthy lifestyle while you're eating eggs? So again, I love the egg and veggie scramble, which is what I gave you a recipe for during that first class. Again,
did you try it?
No. She said, no. There was no flavor. The egg white stuff took away the whole flavor of the egg.
So she needs to put more spices in her.
Yeah, use some herbs, some garlic powder, onion powder.
Hey, I eat so many fruits and so many vegetables, it's unbelievable.
Okay.
That's why I was going to ask if there was such a thing as eating too much of the vegetables and stuff, but I can ask afterwards. So.
Okay. Yeah, so again, this egg and veggie scramble, I'm sorry you didn't like it, Jody, but it is very versatile. So you can throw other things in it, maybe trying other vegetables in it, or maybe some other potatoes or something. So again, I like to combine the eggs with the egg whites. So again, I do about 2 eggs with 9 tablespoons or so of egg whites, and then I throw in potatoes or veggies. Really make a nice like veggie omelet kind of thing. So that's how I really like to eat them. You can also do like hard-boiled eggs for snacks throughout the day, egg salad sandwiches, things like that with eggs. So some other specific nutrients. So again, saturated fats. This definitely, when you have a high intake of saturated fat, it's going to increase the body's production of cholesterol and should be limited. So when it comes to red meats, we usually recommend about 1 to 2 times a week. And then also choosing leaner cuts of beef. And then other foods that you want to just watch out for and limit that should be on that eat less list is going to be like butter and ghee, high fat dairy, cream and ice cream, and processed.
Now you're talking about my problem area.
All those good foods, which again, I don't want you to completely cut out, but really trying to limit them is going to be beneficial. Trans fat, really just try to best to avoid those. I mean, we've done a pretty good job of eliminating them for the most part, but they are still in a lot of like packaged cakes and cookies, margarine, fried potatoes, like if you from fast food restaurants and restaurants in general. Some brand of potato chips still have some trans fat in them. And if you ever look at the ingredient list and it says partially hydrogenated oils, it usually means it's going to have a little bit of trans fat in it. And trans fat is also on the nutrition label, so you can see that as well. So I have some ideas for some swaps for better cholesterol and just overall health. So if you ever look at like the beef at the grocery store, you're going to see percentages. So this percentages is the percentage of fat that's in the product. So you always want to go for a higher number if possible. So instead of an 80% beef burger, you can choose that 93 or 95%. It's going to be lower in fats. You can also
it doesn't stick together.
Well, another idea is doing half of beef, so half of maybe that higher fat beef with half of turkey, so ground turkey, like mixing them together. So that can also cut down the fat because the ground turkey is going to be a lot less, usually in the 90th percentile for fat range. Bison is another meat if you can get your hands on it. It's a leaner meat, and it's really delicious, and it's going to would be a good switch for a beef burger. You can also do half a beef burger with half of a lentil burger. So I don't know if you ever had a veggie burger. they're super easy to make from scratch. You can freeze them and they taste really good. So, and there's a lot of variety you can do with it. So that could be another option as well. And again, if you're getting the standard American breakfast with the 2 pieces of bacon, 2 pieces of white bread with butter and 2 eggs, a better option would be maybe just 1 piece of bacon, maybe 2 eggs with 2 eggs whites and some greens mixed in. So again, to limit the cholesterol and the fat. And maybe go for a whole wheat toast instead of a white bread so you can get some more fiber from that. And then again, just monitor the amount of butter you're using. So instead of just lathering up the butter, controlling it, maybe do 1 teaspoon of butter. So again, I'm not asking you to just cut out all this food, but trying to make mindful, steps to being better when choosing foods. So instead of something like ribs, which is super fatty, choosing something like pork chops, which is actually pretty lean. And then ribeye steaks, which I know are delicious, but they're quite high in fat. So choosing a leaner steak such as top sirloin or flank, and just trying to remove that fat. And then also including veggies with your steak. That can, again, veggies are good to include anytime to help just better overall health. So again, there's so many great recipes on the internet. I mean, we have access to unlimited recipes. It's really great when it comes to that. So I would highly recommend looking up some recipes. Again, if you haven't tried a veggie burger, look up how to make those and give that a shot. All right, so now we're going to talk about physical activity. So we touched on this a little bit last time as well, but the American Heart Association recommends the same amount of activity that our federal guidelines recommend, which is 150 minutes a week, which is about 2.5 hours. They do want some of this activity to be a little bit higher intensity, so you really kind of get your heart rate up, feeling like breaking a sweat, you can feel your heart increase. You really want to try to also throw in some strength building exercises, maybe some resistant bands, some body weight push-ups or squats, like that. And again, just start somewhere. Where can you start? If it's walking, if it's playing a sport, whatever you can do to just get somewhere starting. And again, it's not just planned exercise. It's also if you're working, if you're like in construction, that's considered physical exercise. If you're dancing, if you're gardening, biking, hiking, yard work. I mean, a lot of things are considered exercise or physical activity. It's just kind of a sample week for what 150 minutes would look like. So I just kind of wanted to break it down for you. So if you walked for 20 minutes, pretty good pace, 3 days a week. So say you choose Monday, Wednesday, or you can alternate between walking and running. Good one too. And then on Tuesdays, the day that you're not walking, you do 20 minutes of light arm work. So you have some light dumbbells, or you literally just use something in the house, a can, or something a little bit heavy, and literally just do some arm stuff, some curls, some presses, some push-ups, even on your knees. I mean, something to just get your arms moving and lifting and moving some weight. And then let's say on Thursday, you work on your lower body a little bit. Maybe you do some squats or some lunges, or again, anything with, even like for, again, 20 minutes. So nothing too long. And then on Saturday, you like to swim. So you go to the pool and you swim for 30 minutes. And Saturday, you do some laps at the pool, or maybe some water aerobics. And then Sunday, you just go for a 20-minute leisurely walk. You walk your dog, you walk with your kids, grandkids, parents, whoever, somebody, get a walking buddy. So if you total all that up, you get 150 minutes. So I don't know. I felt like this maybe could definitely be doable. So again, I'm not saying you need to start with all this stuff, but working up to something like this can really be beneficial. So again, the last one, again, if you are smoking, obviously it's recommended to quit smoking. For the American Heart Association, smoking unfortunately kills around 440,000 people every year. So 1 in every 5 smoking-related deaths is caused by heart disease. And if you do smoke, you're 2 to 4 times more likely to get heart disease than non-smokers. So out of all of this stuff, if you smoke, I would recommend that being the first one to try to cut out. Smoking causes an instant increase in your blood pressure and heart rate. It reduces blood flow to the heart, damages blood vessels, and doubles your risk for stroke. I know vaping is something that's been in a little bit of a debate, but they still don't recommend it as an alternative. to smoking, and they really need some more research on vaping. So I just thought this was interesting, what kind of happens when you do quit smoking. So according to the American Heart Association and in the US Surgeon General, this is how your body starts to recover when you quit smoking. So in the first 20 minutes of quitting, your blood pressure and heart rate recover from the nicotine-induced spikes. After 12 hours, the carbon monoxide levels in your blood return to normal. After 2 weeks, your circulation and lung function begin to improve. After 1 to 9 months, clear and deeper breathing gradually returns. You have less coughing, less shortness of breath, and your lungs appear cleaner and reduce your risk of infection. After just 1 year of quitting, your risk of heart disease is reduced by 50%. After 5 years, your risk of cancer of the mouth, throat, esophagus, and bladder are cut in half, and your risk of cervical cancer and stroke return to normal. After 10 years of quitting, you're half as likely to die from lung cancer. Your risk of larynx or pancreatic cancer also decreases. And then after 15 years, your risk of heart disease is the same as a non-smoker. So that's pretty cool. If you can stay quit for 15 years, you can be back to where you were before you started smoking. So I thought that was an interesting way to show it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
15 years.
Yep. So this last one, sleep. So there is so much great evidence, and it's continuing to come out, that sleep issues and interrupted sleep has some major effects on our heart and just health in general. Sleep is a really important time for our body to recover. During that really deep sleep, so that non-rapid eye movement sleep, our heart rate slows, our blood pressure decreases, and our breathing stabilizes. And these changes altogether reduce the stress on the heart, allowing it to recover from all the day's activities. People that have had chronic sleep problems linked to, have been linked to several heart health issues, including, again, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart attack, obesity, and stroke and diabetes. So they really want you to get a minimum of 7 hours of interrupted sleep a night, which I know can be really hard for some people. And if you can get 8 to 9 hours, it's even better. So the benefits of sleep include maintaining a healthy weight, reduce stress and improves mood. You just make better decisions when you get enough sleep. You think more clearly. You're sick less often, and you have better heart health. So it is something, if you are struggling with sleep, it is something you want to start trying to figure out how to make better. Here are some tips that you can start implementing. Being consistent. So really trying to keep a consistent bedtime and a consistent wake up time, even on the weekends. So if you're staying up late and sleeping on the weekends, it can disrupt that routine during the week. So keeping the bedroom as dark as possible tells the body's light sensitive clock that it's time to sleep. Another really important thing, and if you haven't tried this, try not to look at your phone about an hour before you go to bed. It can really help. Noise, trying to keep everything obviously as quiet as possible, or use a white noise generator, such as a fan if you need it. Trying to relax and establish a bedtime routine. Again, that's consistent, so every night. So television, work, and computer use, movies, deep stressful discussions late at night can be very disruptive for speech. So have a transition, say. So 30 to 60 minutes before you're going to bed, find some type of way to wind down. Read a book, listen to calming music, take a warm bath. Again, trying to do something every night that's going to be relaxing for you can really help prepare yourself for that sleep. Temperature is really important. Keep a cold room. They recommend between 66 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's pretty cold. Stimulants, things like coffee, nicotine, really trying not to drink or use anything past like 3, 4 o'clock. Exercise, again, when you start exercising, your sleep is just going to improve instantly. It's pretty amazing. And then when it comes to eating dinner, really try not to eat right before you go to bed. Because eating dinner right before can make you overly full and can disturb sleep because your body is still processing that food you ate. So it's going through digestion. So you're not quite going to be ready for sleep at that point. Okay, so bring it all together. So just in summary, again, try to keep a healthy weight and lose weight if you need to. and control cholesterol and blood pressure levels. Know where your levels are at. Ask your doctor if they're at. If they haven't been checked in over a year, you need to know what they are, especially cholesterol levels. And if you do have high cholesterol and you're trying to lower it, get levels done every 3 months to check where you're at and see what you're doing and see if you need to do more, or in that case, like just keeping tabs on yourself. Be physically active. Again, trying to work up to that 150 minutes a week. Trying to sleep better. So trying some of those recommendations for improving sleep. And then again, if you are smoking, really try to quit. And if you have somebody that's smoking in your household, try to help them as well. Florida has a lot of free resources. It's called AHEC. And they provide, support groups, free nicotine patches, and they do a really great job, and it's all for free. All right, so in the last class, we did discuss some goals. So, Jody, did you make any goals from last time, and are you working on them?
Yeah, I gained 3 pounds.
That's okay.
But now I've lost 2. But I have my Lyrica is it just puts the weight on me, and it sucks. It gets me very upset. But the weird thing, okay, so anyways, yeah, the whole thumb thing, that was a hard one to follow.
Of her oil and butter?
Yeah, oil and butter.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that was a hard one, because especially like peanut butter with my apple. But I wrote everything down what I ate, and I looked at the calories and stuff, and then, I had that egg breakfast, and I said, no, I have to go back to my cereal. And, but when you get to the questions and answers, I had questions about the fiber and all that stuff.
Okay,
but, yeah, I tried. Go for it? Okay.
Yep.
I want to know, is there such a thing as too much fiber? I mean, is carbs all fiber? Does all the carbs have fiber? Does that make sense? Like bread
fiber yeah. So fiber is a carbohydrate. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of carbs aren't good for you, especially me. They turn into sugar, but.
Yeah, I mean, even that stuff that's healthy for us, we don't want to overdo it. Okay.
Okay. That's where I'm going wrong, because I eat like tons of vegetables. I eat a salad every day. There's zucchini, yellow squash, apples, tomatoes, sweet peppers. I mean, I've got, I'm covering the bases there. And I use the balsamic vinaigrette. And so I know there's oil in that, but, I don't soak it or anything. And sleep, I go to bed at like 7, but I read for an hour. I set the timer on the television, but I have it muted while I'm reading. I'm like an OCDC elemental P person. But, so I have to have my routine. And I pretty much am like the Mediterranean diet. My blood sugar does not run high. If anything, it runs like on a lower level. I've always had a good blood pressure. And except for when I went and got my second shot for my shingles, and I was sitting there at the machine and I did it, and it rose a little bit because I'm like, ah. But anyways, so I go to bed, and I just count it, because I'm up at like 3:30 to 4:30 every morning. And I get up and I have my routine that I do. And so, I wanted to know also, so that's what I do there, but like rye bread, is rye bread less, working less on the good fiber versus like wheat or anything? Is rye bread got any good qualities?
Yeah, so rye bread should be pretty comparable. But again, the breads vary even when it comes to whole wheat. So again, the best thing you can do is check that nutrition label and look at what the fiber is. Okay. Yeah, so check that out.
I eat a lot of fiber. I am not a salt person at all. So I don't really eat anything with salt unless I'm having some ham. And you know, that's salt. And I can tell when I have salt. But let's see. Is there such a thing as eating too much of a healthy thing? And what about milk? Oh, go ahead.
So that's great that you eat lots of fruits and veggies, and that it is super important to do that. We just don't want to miss out on other important nutrients too by overdoing it on other things. So we want to, again, making sure you're also getting healthy fats, which I know you mentioned the dressing, which has a little bit of oil in it. And peanut butter. Another things you can add too are like avocados, nuts and seeds.
I love avocados, love those.
Okay, great. And then again, make sure you're getting enough protein as well. So,
I bought those protein drinks. And that's another thing I started too. Is I pour a little bit in my cereal with milk, and mix it up, or I have it in my coffee.
That's a good idea.
Protein drinks. That's one thing I worked on, trying to get the protein, because I didn't have the big protein. So I got that out of last week. That was a good thing. Now, melatonin for sleeping, is that a big no-no?
No, that is a supplement that you can definitely give a shot and see if it helps. I have
no problem sleeping, really.
Okay. And that's great. And that's great that your blood pressure is controlled, and it's probably definitely has something to do with all the fruits and veggies you're eating. So definitely continue doing that. If that's what works for your body, if your bowels are okay with all that fiber too. I mean, making sure that you're feeling okay on that as well.
Oh, my bowels work okay. It's too much.
That can happen too when you overconsume on fiber too. So just being mindful of that.
That would explain it.
Yep.
Now you said undisturbed sleep. What if you're gonna get up and go pee or something? Is that called disturbed?
Yep. So again, if you are drinking a lot of fluids before bed, that's also something you want to be mindful of, because that can obviously wake you up and you can go pee. And if you have high blood pressure too, that it can increase, again, the water you're retaining, which can cause you to go pee more. So try not to drink too much before bed can help not wake up to go pee. Can be good.
And I have no problem. I could drink a whole coffee, iced coffee, and bring it into my bedroom and have that as my last drink before I go to bed.
Yeah, some people can just do that.
I think I'm just,
Yeah, everyone's got different, that's for sure. So again, nutrition is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Some people can tolerate caffeine perfectly. Some people are extremely sensitive to it. So it just depends on you.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and as far as the smoking goes, if I quit smoking, I'm going to need a whole different diet. Because that would be hard. But anyways, I know. I don't drink anymore, so I always use that excuse. Well, I got to have some bad habit or something. But
yeah,
I know. I'll work on that.
Okay. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to work on.
Work in progress.
Work in progress.
Always.
So I got a few things for you. Tell me a little bit, just for the viewers, how would you describe the difference between saturated fat and trans fat? Like, we see that on the label, but what does it actually mean when I'm consuming it? So if I eat that bag of potato chips that has a lot of trans fat in it, what is that doing inside my body versus something that's high in saturated fat? How does that break down, and how does that affect my cholesterol levels that way?
I mean, saturated fat is just, from the research, it's just going to be the worst thing for your cholesterol levels, for sure. It just builds up plaque a lot more quicker. It's just, I can't tell you the exact chemical process that goes in your body. It's been quite a while since I've dug into that. But it's just something that causes, when we were really eating a lot of it, it just like really increased the risk of the heart disease and diabetes and really everything when it comes to those comorbidities. So but again, because it's been such a culprit with all that, they've really tried really hard to decrease the amount of trans fat and everything. So I mean, saturated fat's going to be a lot more in the foods. It's going to be a lot more common. So that's probably one thing I would be more mindful of at this point. And then when it comes to trans fats, just knowing like, hey, margarine is a big source of trans fats. We don't use it very often anymore. Well, most people don't. Shortening is another thing that's really pretty much pure trans fat. So it's just knowing to stay away from those types of foods. Just because it's just such an elevated, when you consume those foods, there's such a higher risk of those diseases when it comes to that. It's just the chemical makeup of the fat when it comes to that is just, it's a really horrible fat for your body in general. There's nothing beneficial about it whatsoever.
It's almost like if you had, you know, a couple of beakers or glasses in front of you with water, and you put a scoop of Crisco in one, you put a dollop of you know, soybean oil in the next one, and then you put just something that breaks down a little bit easier in your body. And you could see the difference of like how that Crisco never changes. It's going to keep its form, and that's probably what happens in your blood vessels as it's being digested and absorbed. And like you said, the oils and the trans fats tend to stick and make that plaque around those vessels, and that just increases your blood pressure over time and increases your risk for stroke and heart attacks. So I feel like being mindful of, like you said, those fried potatoes, that's the easiest culprit. When we pass by the McDonald's, what do we think of? Oh my goodness, I want some French fries. Right? And that's just such a, you know, that sometimes a treat, but it's like, oh, what am I putting actually inside my body? Well, if you think about it, they just, and the whole thing of French fries were just dumped in a bucket of oil, and then, you know, you're eating that, you know. So if you kind of break it down in your mind that way, it's like, okay, just being mindful, like you said, about what I'm actually cooking, how it's being processed, and then how it is, you know, broken down and absorbed in my body, which helps me to understand what products may be left behind inside and affect me drastically in the long run. So
I'm more of a creamy person. I don't go to fast food restaurants.
There's partially hydrogenated oils that are just pure. They look like just like extra virgin olive oil. So the look wise, I mean, look at coconut oil. You know, coconut oil also can look like Crisco. So, I mean, it is a good visual for some people if they want to, you know, use that. But definitely fats can come in different forms as well, depending on temperatures, what they're kept at, that kind of stuff as well.
So they both build up fat. They both build up fat, the trans fat and the saturated, they build up the body fat.
Yes. The trans fat's going to do it a lot quicker than saturated fat. And then
okay, that's what we want to know.
That's what we I went from trans. Go for
and it's not the only culprit. I mean, excess calories in general turn into cholesterol as well. So unfortunately, I mean, saturated fat, is it great? No. But is it the worst thing in the world compared? And, you know, there's a lot of other things too that we need to look out for. So it's kind of just gotten this really bad rap where there's other things we need to be mindful of as well. Excess sugar, again, excess calories in general. I mean, you could definitely, if you eat tons of fruit, that could send you over the edge in excess calories as well. So it's just, there's lots of things to consider and to think about.
Well, thank you, Hannah. I know that we've got a couple of callers on virtually. Do either of you guys that are on virtually have any questions for Hannah? Guess not. I guess you did a good job. You did a great job of covering everything.
Yes.
Well, you've given us a lot of information today. Yeah. I'm excited about this just because you know, if we don't have our hearts, we don't have us. So taking care of the heart is very, very important.
Yeah, my grandmother died at 53 of heart. So
it affects us all.
We want to protect us for sure. So anything we can do preventative wise, I mean, can be really helpful.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And then what's our next month? Remind me of the day.
Oh,
gosh. Is it March? Let me look. I know. We'll both look at the same time.
I think it's like 13th or something. Yeah, 13th.
Yes, March 13th. And you had just sent me a great email about how March is Nutrition Month. So tell us a little bit about what the next class will be about.
Yeah, so March is always National Nutrition Month.
Is this March?
This is
next what month it is anymore? It's so crazy.
Oh no, I mean, this paper is it March?
That's for this month.
Okay.
So the theme this year is personalize your plate. So again, I'm always talking about nutrition is very personalized, it's very individualized. Like Jody says, she can drink caffeine right before bed, somebody else can't. So we really want to do our best to personalize and individualize our nutrition. So next month we're going to dive more into nutrition, some important nutrients we need to consider, creating healthy meals. We'll focus on nutrition next month.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Hannah. I appreciate you, and take care up in the upper keys as we will take care down here in the lower keys.